The Horn of Africa had not been spared from the world powers partition of Africa at the end of 19th century. In the late 1980s, Italy took over Eritrea, French in Djibouti, United Kingdom in Somaliland, and Italians in Somalia. From 1884, the United Kingdom ruled Somaliland for 76 years under the name of British Somaliland Protectorate. A delegation of 5 prominent Somalilanders, led by the late Muhammad Haji Ibrahim Igal, had gone to London to finalize the independent accords. June 26, 1960, the Independence Day, people were jubilant. National poems were recited to describe the joy and freedom and self-governance. Unfortunately, 4 days later, the state of Somaliland had ceased to exist on July 1st, 1960, the date that Somali Italy had acceded to its independence. An illegal marriage had happened between Somaliland and the newly independent Somali to form Somali Republic. The civilian government had only survived 9 years as a military coup d'etat of 21st October 1969 overthrew them to replace with a military dictatorial regime. Taking advantage of the Cold War, the new regime had made ties with the Eastern Bloc and built up a strong military machine. A military machine that will later be used to terrorize its own people and create division with Somalis. Beginning 80s, Somaliland had been subjected to harsh oppression, and things deteriorated in the course of time to lead the formation of Somaliland National Movement called the Acronym SNM. The situation of Somaliland had worsened in the late 80s and mid-88. SNM guerrillas had launched armed operation in Burra and Hargeisa. The response of the regime was ruthless, and military machines had rolled over the country and destroyed everything on its path. Aerial bombs and artillery shells were used against unarmed civilians. Hundreds of thousands of Somalilanders fled to Ethiopia. For lack of international readiness in such crises, water and food shortage had become major risks to their basic survival. But if the luckiest had gone to refuge in Ethiopia, the weak and vulnerable people left behind had been at the mercy of military brutality and cruelty. Thousands of elderly, women and children had lost their lives. At last, and after close to 3 years of uninterrupted war, Somaliland had finally been freed in early 1991. The destruction level was higher than expected, and cities were unrecognizable. Landmines were everywhere. Like most of other cities in the country, Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland, had suffered a lot of the indiscriminating, brutal destructions of the military regime. Any standing structures had been leveled, such as mosques, business buildings, government edifices, schools, medical facilities, houses, all infrastructures shattered. The country had been in an operable, catastrophic, durable landmines all across the country accompanied the misery of the ruins and rumbles. Landmine victims grew each day at a higher rate. Bur'a, the capital of Togdad region, had got the same treatment of cruelty and destruction as Hargeisa and other Somaliland cities. Bur'a Institute of Technology, once the proud of Bur'a, had been demolished and looted. On May 18, 1991, Somaliland was reborn. The Assembly of Somaliland Communities met in Bur'a had unanimously agreed to nullify their illegal marriage with Somalia and declared Somaliland as a sovereign state. The first President of Republic of Somaliland, His Excellency Abdirahman Ahmed Ali, had been elected along with his Vice President, His Excellency Hassan Isa Chama. They have been mandated to form the first government and temporarily led the country for 2 years. Somali Republic flag had been replaced by Somaliland flag and the people's freedom regained. Shortly after, the first government and the first parliament had been formed. 2 years later, in 1993, the elderlies of Somaliland community had met for the second time in a General Assembly meeting held in Dhamays, Aldal region. The reconciliation and peace building finalized and the term of government expired. Presidential elections had undergone. Were candidates for the presidential race. Abdirahman Ahmed Ali, Mohammed Ibrahim Igal, Omar Artem Ghalib, and lastly Ahmed Mohammed Khaliq. His Excellency Mohammed Haji Ibrahim Igal had won the race and had been elected as the second President of Republic of Somaliland, and along as Vice President Abdirahman Ali Bara. Mohammed Haji Ibrahim Igal immediately formed his government, conducted militia disarmament, the formation of a national army, a police force, and other law enforcement bodies. Trainings had been conducted for disarmed militias that would later form the National Army and Police Force. government institution had emerged from the ashes, and progressively Somaliland had been shaped without any assistance of international communities. Despite the lack of needed resources and the intransigency of the world denial for a deserved recognition which had isolated Somaliland, the people's will had prevailed. The country's reconstruction had begun as well as peace strengthening. The authority of the government had progressively been drawn out throughout the country. At the Third Elderly's Assembly, held in Hargeisa, His Excellency Mohammed Haji Ibrahim Igal had been re-elected for president. And His Excellency Dahid Riyale Kahin for vice president. Somaliland of today had come from a long way. New model buildings replaced the rumbles. Hotels, business structures, schools, etc. had been reopened, from primary to intermediate to even universities. Somaliland children could finally go to school like any other children in the world.